The human mind has long been trained to move in straight lines. We learn from an early age to see cause and effect, as if they were beads strung neatly on a thread. One follows another, each step predictable, each result tied to a beginning. This is the architecture of linear thought. It is efficient, practical, and essential for survival in a world where fire burns, water quenches thirst, and seeds become trees. Yet what made humanity thrive in the past can quietly become a prison for imagination, creativity, and expansion of consciousness. Linear thought tells us there's one road, one beginning, one ending, and everything between is the middle. Quantum thinking, by contrast, whispers that there are countless roads, each alive in the same moment, waiting for awareness to choose. To break the habit of linear thought is not to abandon logic, but to transcend it, to awaken a deeper order of mind that does not merely march but dances across possibility. The habit of linearity is powerful because it mirrors the material world. Every clock ticks forward, every calendar turns its page, every body grows older and moves toward an inevitable conclusion. Culture reinforces this rhythm. Education systems are designed as ladders. Learn one lesson, then the next, graduate from one level to another, reach the summit of professional life, retire, then wait for the clock to finish its cycle. History is taught as a line drawn across a page, with events stacked left to right like milestones on a road. Even language itself, bound by grammar and syntax, prefers order, subject before predicate, cause before effect. But while this structure feels natural, it is only one lens, one construct of human perception. The universe does not unfold strictly in lines. It unfolds in patterns, fields, and interwoven networks of energy. Linear thought grasps only a shadow of the whole. Quantum thinking offers an alternative frame, borrowed from the paradoxes of quantum physics, but applied to consciousness. Where linear thought assumes one outcome at a time, quantum thinking embraces simultaneity. It acknowledges that multiple realities, multiple meanings, and multiple choices exist in the same instant. Consider the double-slit experiment in physics. A single particle behaves as if it travels down many paths until observation collapses it into one. Consciousness itself may work in a similar way. The human mind, when caught in linearity, reduces the field of possibility to a single path. This causes that, and only this result can follow. But when we shift into quantum thinking, we hold paradox without anxiety. We accept that something can be both wave and particle, both true and false, both complete and incomplete, until the act of awareness brings clarity. This shift requires practice, for the linear brain resists ambiguity. Yet in ambiguity lies freedom. Breaking the habit of linear thought begins with noticing how pervasive it is. Ask a person what success means, and the answer is often linear. Work hard, climb the ladder, reach a destination. Ask how healing happens, and the model is linear. Take medicine, reduce symptoms, return to health. But life rarely obeys such tidy maps. Success may come from sudden leaps, accidents, or detours. Healing may arrive through belief, environment, or hidden processes science cannot yet quantify. The linear model comforts because it promises predictability. The quantum model disturbs because it suggests unpredictability is not a flaw, but a feature of reality. To think quantumly is to invite uncertainty as a companion, not a threat. It is to see life as a field where many seeds sprout at once, and the harvest depends not solely on sequence, but on perception, attention, and resonance. The practical implications are vast. In problem solving, linear thought tends to ask, what is the first step? What is the next? What is the logical progression? Quantum thinking asks instead, what unseen connections already exist? What patterns echo across domains? What solutions are possible beyond the straight road? Artists often work in this way without naming it. A musician hears colors, a painter sees music, an inventor dreams an answer before knowing the question. This is not irrationality. It is transrationality, a mode of awareness that leaps beyond sequence. The greatest breakthroughs, whether in science, art, or personal transformation, rarely come from walking straight lines. They erupt when the mind dares to leap sideways, diagonally, or into dimensions previously ignored. At the heart of linear thought is the belief in scarcity of outcomes. If one path is taken, others are lost. If one decision is made, all others are closed. This fosters regret, anxiety, and clinging to control. Quantum thinking dissolves this tension by recognizing that the field of potential remains alive even when one choice is enacted. Each decision creates a resonance that connects to parallel outcomes. This is not merely speculative physics, but a psychological truth. Every choice shapes perception, and perception reshapes reality. By learning to hold multiple possibilities, the individual liberates themselves from the tyranny of one-way roads. The mind becomes less a machine of prediction and more a symphony of exploration. The transformation is not easy because linearity is wired into neural circuits. The brain thrives on prediction. Dopamine surges when patterns are recognized, when the next note in a melody falls exactly where expected. This addiction to predictability is why uncertainty feels threatening. Yet neuroplasticity grants freedom. The brain can be trained to tolerate, even delight in ambiguity. Practices like mindfulness, meditation, or contemplative inquiry invite the mind to rest in states beyond linear grasping. In these spaces, time itself feels altered. A moment stretches into eternity, or eternity condenses into a moment. This is the lived experience of quantum thought. The realization that time is not a straight line, but a fabric woven in many directions at once. When societies cling too tightly to linear models, creativity shrivels. Bureaucracies thrive on linearity. Forms, procedures, step-by-step processes. Innovation, however, thrives on nonlinearity. Sudden leaps, reconfigurations, accidents embraced as discoveries. The tension between order and chaos is ancient, mirrored in myths of creation where cosmos arises from primordial disorder. Quantum thinking does not abolish order, but weaves it with chaos, allowing patterns to emerge without forcing them into rigid tracks. To cultivate such thinking in collective life means reimagining education, economics, and culture not as ladders, but as networks. Students could be encouraged not only to memorize sequences, but to perceive interconnections. Economies could measure value not only in linear growth, but in regenerative cycles. Cultures could honor paradox rather than suppress it. The power of quantum thinking extends into personal growth. Linear thought often chains identity. You were this, therefore you are that. Therefore you will become something predetermined. The past defines the present, and the present dictates the future. This sequence leaves little room for reinvention. Quantum thinking fractures that chain. It allows a person to hold multiple selves, to shift identities, to leap into new realities not dictated by past sequence. A man born in poverty can, through awareness, embody abundance. A woman bound by trauma can, through new perception, inhabit freedom. The change is not merely metaphorical. Neuroscience confirms that new thought patterns rewire the brain, creating literal new pathways of being. To think quantumly is to recognize that you are not trapped by the line of your past, but alive in a field of infinite futures. Linear thought has one rhythm, forward motion. Quantum thinking has many, spirals, oscillations, sudden leaps, and stillness. Imagine a dancer who only knows how to march. Then imagine one who can glide, twirl, pause, and explode. The richness of life is unlocked not by discarding marching, but by adding the dance of paradox. In practical terms, this means practicing curiosity in the face of the unknown, loosening the grip on certainty, and daring to perceive connections invisible to logic. It means noticing that problems do not always require step-by-step solutions, but sometimes dissolve when attention shifts. It means understanding that reality itself may respond to belief, emotion, and imagination as much as to linear cause and effect. The evolution of human consciousness may depend on this shift. In the industrial age, linear thought was supreme. It built machines, factories, and systems of efficiency. In the information age, networks began to reveal nonlinearity. The internet itself is not a line, but a web. In the emerging age of consciousness, quantum thinking becomes essential. Humanity now faces challenges, climate change, technological disruption, existential risks that cannot be solved by straight lines alone. They demand perception of interdependence, creativity that leaps beyond sequence, and the courage to navigate ambiguity. To break the habit of linear thought is to prepare for this new epoch where survival and flourishing depend on embracing the multidimensional field of reality. Ultimately, quantum thinking is not an abstract philosophy, but a lived practice. It is cultivated each time you pause before drawing a straight conclusion, each time you hold paradox without panic, each time you recognize that possibility exceeds prediction. Breaking the habit of linear thought does not mean rejecting the road, but seeing that the road is one thread in a vast tapestry. You can walk it, but you can also step off it, dance upon it, or weave new patterns entirely. To live quantumly is to awaken from the prison of sequence into the freedom of simultaneity, where every moment is not merely a point on a line, but an opening into infinity. The deepest roots of linear thought lie not only in culture, but in the very biology of survival. When early humans encountered a rustle in the grass, linear thinking was life-saving. Sound equals predator, predator equals danger, danger equals flight. This quick, straight inference ensured survival in a hostile environment. Over thousands of years, this neurological pattern hardened into habit. Yet what once protected us now limits us. In a world less ruled by immediate threats, clinging to linear reflexes blocks access to the subtler dimensions of intelligence. A rustle in the grass may still be danger, but it may also be wind, prey, or nothing at all. Quantum thinking allows us to pause before collapsing possibility, to hold open the field of meanings without rushing toward a singular conclusion. This does not mean hesitation in survival scenarios, but liberation in creative and existential ones. Breaking this ancient habit begins with awareness of its grip. Observe how thought naturally strings itself into chains. If this happens, then that will happen, and then I must. The chain grows so quickly it feels automatic. Meditation exposes the illusion. Sit in stillness and notice how thought leaps from one bead to the next. Each link appears inevitable, but upon reflection, it is only habitual. By stepping outside the chain, we glimpse that other beads, other links, other necklaces of thought exist. The mind is not forced to wear only one string of pearls. It can adorn itself with countless. This awareness loosens the compulsion of linearity, creating space for nonlinear insight to surface. Quantum thinking thrives in paradox, and paradox is the natural language of the unconscious. Carl Jung observed that symbols, dreams, and archetypes do not speak in linear sequences, but in layered images and contradictions. A dream may show you dying and being born in the same moment. A symbol may hold meanings that contradict yet coexist. In linear mode, such contradictions feel intolerable. The mind rushes to reduce them to either/or. In quantum mode, contradiction becomes nourishment. Both slash and replaces either/or. Death and birth are seen as two faces of the same coin. Healing is not the erasure of wounds, but the weaving of wounds into wholeness. To live in paradox is not confusion, but expansion. It is the realization that truth is not a single line, but a spectrum, and the spectrum can only be seen when the mind stops forcing the prism into a single ray. Time is perhaps the greatest illusion created by linear thought. We are trained to imagine it as a river flowing one way, past behind, present now, future ahead. Yet physics offers a different vision. At the quantum level, time behaves less like a river and more like a field where all points coexist. Experiments suggest particles can be influenced by future events as much as by past ones. In consciousness, this resonates with experiences of déjà vu, intuition, or synchronicity, where the future seems to whisper into the present. Linear thought dismisses these as anomalies. Quantum thinking treats them as evidence of a reality more complex than linear time permits. By shifting perception, we can live less as prisoners of the ticking clock and more as participants in a timeless field, where the present moment contains past and future folded into itself. In practical life, this shift alters how we create. Consider the act of writing. Linear thought insists. Begin with an introduction, proceed with arguments, end with conclusion. Quantum thought invites another approach. Ideas arrive in fragments, out of order, some belonging to the end before the beginning, some belonging everywhere at once. The writer gathers them, not in sequence but in resonance, arranging them like constellations rather than chains. The result may still appear linear to the reader, but the process is quantum, non-linear, associative, multidimensional. This is true not only for art, but for all creation. Entrepreneurs, scientists, and innovators who embrace nonlinear methods often birth revolutions. They leap over steps others assume must be walked. They allow inspiration to appear not as a sequence, but as a sudden whole. Fear is the guardian of linearity. Humans cling to straight lines because they seem safe. If A leads to B, then the world feels controllable. To admit that A may also lead to Z, or that B and Z may coexist, threatens the illusion of certainty. Yet control is fragile. The pandemic, climate shocks, and personal crises all reveal how little is truly predictable. To break the habit of linear thought is to release the need for control and replace it with the art of navigation. A sailor on the sea cannot control the wind or waves, but by sensing their patterns, they navigate. In the same way, the quantum thinker does not demand straight lines, but rides the currents of possibility. This requires courage, for it means trusting intuition, resonance, and unseen forces as much as logic. But courage awakens freedom, and freedom awakens creativity. At its essence, linear thought is rooted in duality, subject and object, cause and effect, beginning and end. Quantum thinking transcends duality into unity. The observer is not separate from the observed, but entangled with it. Your thought shapes your reality as much as reality shapes your thought. This principle, reflected in both quantum physics and mystical traditions, reveals why breaking linearity matters. It transforms existence from passive sequence into active participation. Life is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you, with you, because of you. Each moment is not a dot on a line, but a field vibrating with possibility, awaiting your awareness to crystallize form. To live quantum thinking daily is to awaken each morning with the awareness that nothing is fixed, that the patterns you have inherited need not dictate the patterns you will embody. The ordinary mind wakes up and immediately reattaches itself to the linear script. The same story of self, the same duties, the same fears, the same anticipated outcomes. Quantum thinking interrupts this mechanical reentry. It recognizes that consciousness is not bound to yesterday's narrative. The act of opening your eyes is also the act of opening a field of infinite possibility. In this recognition, routine becomes ritual. Brushing your teeth, walking to work, or sitting at a desk ceases to be merely the next predictable bead on the chain of existence and becomes an arena where perception itself can be reshaped. Each act becomes an experiment, a chance to choose resonance instead of repetition. Practical cultivation of this awareness begins with reframing questions. Linear thought asks, "What must I do next?" Quantum thinking asks, "What realities are available in this moment?" The shift may seem subtle, but its consequences are profound. A person bound to linearity treats life as a sequence of obligations. Wake, work, rest, repeat. A person in quantum perception treats life as a symphony of choices. Rest may bring clarity that alters work. A moment of play may unlock solutions logic could not. By reframing the guiding question, you create a pause, a space where possibility can breathe before sequence takes over. In this pause, habits of thought loosen, and the imagination glimpses other routes through the labyrinth of being. Daily practice can be strengthened through the cultivation of paradox. For example, when facing a challenge, the linear mind insists, "I must either succeed or fail." The quantum mind replies, "I can both succeed and fail, and both can be part of a larger unfolding." Instead of shrinking from contradiction, you lean into it. Journaling paradoxes is a powerful exercise. Write down statements that defy linear categorization. I am both strong and fragile. I am both certain and uncertain. I am both complete and becoming. As the brain repeats this practice, neural rigidity softens. The psyche becomes less afraid of holding contradictions, more comfortable with ambiguity, and therefore more open to nonlinear insight. Another gateway into quantum living is awareness of synchronicity. Linear thought dismisses coincidence as meaningless accident. Quantum thinking recognizes that resonance weaves patterns invisible to logic. When a book appears in your life precisely when you need it, when a stranger speaks words echoing your private questions, when events align with uncanny timing, these are not dismissed as random noise. They are treated as signals, invitations to step beyond linear cause and effect into a field of meaning. To cultivate this awareness is to walk through life not as a statistic, but as a participant in a living conversation with reality. Each synchronicity becomes a reminder that the universe is not a dead machine, but a conscious field in which your awareness plays an active role. Living quantumly also involves engaging imagination not as fantasy, but as creation. Linear thought relegates imagination to unreality, a child's play. Quantum thought sees imagination as a bridge between the unseen and the seen. Visualizing a desired outcome, embodying the emotion of it, and aligning action with it are not mere indulgences. They are acts of collapsing possibility into form. Athletes use visualization to enhance performance. Scientists rely on imagination to conceive theories, and healers tap into imagery to activate the body's regenerative powers. To practice quantum living is to recognize that what you vividly imagine has weight, energy, and influence in the field of reality. The imagination is not a shadow of reality. It is one of its engines. Time, when viewed quantumly, becomes flexible. Instead of measuring your day as a straight sequence of hours, you can learn to step outside its tyranny. Practices such as meditation, breath work, or deep creative flow collapse linear time into timelessness. A few minutes of inner stillness can feel like an eternity of replenishment. An hour of inspired work can unfold with the richness of days. By noticing these shifts, you train yourself to detach from the ticking clock. You begin to live not in accordance with hours, but in resonance with states of consciousness. This does not mean abandoning schedules, but remembering that time is not master, but medium. You are not the servant of linear time. You are the artist painting with it. Daily life offers countless small experiments for quantum practice. When stuck in traffic, instead of following the linear thought, anger, frustration, the inevitable conclusion that you are wasting time, you can expand awareness. Perhaps this delay aligns with an unseen protection. Perhaps it offers space to reflect. Perhaps it connects you with a song or a thought that alters the trajectory of your day. When confronted with conflict, instead of collapsing into the linear script of attack and defense, you can hold open the possibility of reconciliation, humor, or unexpected transformation. These small experiments accumulate, rewiring the mind to perceive fields instead of lines. Relationships, too, become reimagined. Linear thinking treats them as progressions. Meet, bond, conflict, resolve, grow, or break apart. Quantum thinking reveals that relationships exist as living fields of energy where multiple states coexist. Love can be both joy and pain, stability and change, union and individuality. To approach relationships quantumly is to abandon the need to force them into predictable lines. Instead, you cultivate presence, resonance, and openness to surprise. This shift softens possessiveness, reduces fear of endings, and amplifies the beauty of unfolding. The person before you is not a fixed role in a script, but an evolving constellation of possibilities with whom you share a dynamic field. The workplace, often dominated by linear systems, also transforms under quantum living. Traditional management insists on steps, milestones, deadlines, valuable tools, but insufficient for innovation. A team trained in quantum thinking operates differently. They trust intuition, allow ideas to cross-pollinate, and recognize that breakthroughs often come from nonlinear leaps rather than scheduled increments. The workplace becomes less a factory of predictability and more a laboratory of possibility. Companies that embrace this orientation often find themselves at the edge of innovation, for they allow space for the unexpected, the intuitive, the synchronistic. Breaking linear habits also transforms how we relate to self-growth. Linear thought imagines progress as a ladder. Learn step 1, then step 2, then ascend to enlightenment or success. Quantum thinking sees growth as fractal, spirals, recursions, sudden expansions, returns that are not regressions but deeper layers of the same truth. You may feel you are repeating an old challenge, but in quantum perception, you are meeting it from a new dimension, spiraling upward even as you circle back. This recognition dissolves discouragement. What once felt like failure, I am back where I started, is seen as progress, for you are never truly in the same place twice. The spiral always carries you higher, even when it curves back upon itself. The greatest liberation quantum thinking offers is freedom from identity as a straight line. Linear thought binds identity to biography. You were this, therefore you are this, therefore you will be this. Quantum thought invites multiplicity. You are not one self, but a field of selves, and any of them may be embodied depending on awareness. This is why people can radically reinvent their lives. The addict becomes healer, the prisoner becomes poet, the victim becomes visionary. In linear terms, such shifts seem miraculous. In quantum terms, they are natural, for the field of identity always contains these potentials. To live daily with this awareness is to stop asking, "Who am I?" as if there were one answer, and instead ask, "Which self shall I embody today?" Breaking the habit of linear thought is therefore not an intellectual exercise, but a transformation of living. It is practiced in pauses, paradoxes, synchronicities, imaginations, and relationships. It is felt in the shift from predictability to possibility, from sequence to resonance, from scarcity to abundance. It is lived not once, but moment by moment, each moment an invitation to step out of the prison of straight lines into the playground of infinite fields. And in this playground, reality itself changes. For reality is not a fixed script, but a co-creation between consciousness and cosmos. To live quantumly is to realize that you are not walking a line drawn by fate, but weaving a tapestry with the threads of awareness. The line dissolves, the field expands, and life reveals itself not as a march, but as a dance. Fluid, multidimensional, infinite.